really good interview. I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I do a lot of these, and I never would have stayed on for this long.
Oh, really? I'm still a college student and I've never really done interviews before. And so,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I 20 minutes is like my cap, and I always cap it, but yeah, you're really good at it. Really easy to talk to.
Oh, really? Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sheridan Soundcheck Sessions. And I am here today with Mike Odd of Mac Sabbath. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm Mike Odd, the manager of Max Sabbath. How are you?
I am doing well. Alrighty. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
About me personally?
Well, I guess either or. Yeah, you can start with just yourself. Like, how did you get into managing Max Sabbath?
Well, they call me Mike Odd because I'm a oddities guy and because I'm kind of, well, odd, like, and oh my God, it's like that. Anyway, so I used to manage, run and own a oddities museum called the in East Hollywood called the Rosemary's Billy Goat Auditorium. That's what I did there.
Oh, and then that's the name of your band too, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was based on the band was all about, the strange, the bizarre, the unusual. And so we kind of turned that into like a brick and mortar sort of space where once a month we would have a big party with an art show and really diverse entertainment and the weirdest people that we could find, and it was kind of like a clubhouse for weirdos, and celebrating diversity and the strange and the unaccepted and and the like. Now, when you do something like that and you put yourself into the world of weird and you get encapsulated by it, and what happens is it just follows you around forever, kind of like if you like conjure a ghost on a Ouija board or whatever, and then you can't
Mhm.
get rid of them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you try to throw away the Ouija board and you burn it and it keeps ending up on your doorstep. It's kind of like that. I don't know if that ever happened to you, but
No, not personally.
we got to be careful with those Ouija boards. So anyway, so what happened is I would get all these calls and it'd say, "Oh, come out to Pacoima, and I'll bring you out to my shed and show you my two-headed otter skeleton, or maybe you can make like a bid on it and put it in your shop and kind of thing." So it was just like that all the time, right?
Hmm.
So I would get people who would call and come in because weirdos love weirdos and love to share their weirdness, and so it's this thing. And so even after I closed the doors, many years after I closed the doors, I had an online presence going, and this would just keep happening. And
Mhm.
so I get all these strange calls. So I get this call and it says, "Oh, come to Chatsworth, California to this burger franchise and it's going to change your life." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to go out there and they're going to have like burned like the Virgin Mary onto a hamburger bun or something, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll like make a deal together to put it on an auction or something like that, because that's just the lifestyle that I lead, right? So, so I go out there, and it's a long story what happened during the day, but there was a weird thing that happened with Ronald Osborne and
Mhm.
in there and getting kicked out of there and him making a scene and whatever it was. It was like, okay, you got to come back in the middle of the night during our secret meeting or something. And it was like there was this secret like fight club in the middle of the night when it was closed in the basement thing where the employees are down there from the franchise, but the like big managers don't know about it. and it and like they and next thing I know, I'm like crammed in this corner, smashed between like a package of hamburger buns and like freeze-dried condiments and stuff. And this curtain drops, and there's these mutated fast food mascots like slaying these Black Sabbath riffs and screaming about GMOs and Monsanto. And honestly, then it was a little less musical and a little more like I don't know what, like protest, performance art, subversive underground meetings. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, and apparently they knew that I had this weird horror rock costume band that played around LA, and so they said, oh, from what I understood, they said that's what it was, and that they wanted me to be the manager and bring them literally above ground. And I was like, oh, okay, like I get it. They're appealing to my sensibilities of weirdness. And I had said something in the press about Black Sabbath and food or something, and they were like, oh, this is the prophet, the guy, or whatever. And I'm like, all right, that's funny, haha. I'll book them a few shows in LA because I know where this will work and the people that will understand this, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll be on their way. And now, 10 years later, it's like a full time. Been my full time job, and I'm not making horror belt buckles or hawking, platypus skeletons or whatever.
Wow. That's a really, really cool story. So, obviously I've done my research a little bit and I know the story of you meeting Ronald Osborne.
Yeah,
And knowing that story, what is it like to manage Max Sabbath?
complicated. He insists that I barely see him. He shows up. He travels on his own accord, and he just shows up. So I barely see him or know him like I do most people that are involved in the project. He's
Mm-hmm.
very mysterious, and he insists that he exists in the realm of the 1970s, and he travels here through the time space continuum in like a wormhole or something to save us all from the current state of music and food and bring us back to a time where they were both more organic, because that's like his whole thing. Like
Wow.
organic funeral is like a song about the death of real food.
Mhm.
And if we do the right things and take his advice and heed his warnings, maybe we can push things to go in the right direction. But I don't know if that's working out so good.
So, what has been the experience for, being on tour with Max Sabbath? Do you have any super cool memories or just like anything weird, I guess?
Well, I will say that in the beginning, I just thought, okay, he's just messing with me, and this is all a bunch of malarkey. And and like he'd be like, Cinnabon Jovi is trying to destroy me, and Iggy Popeye's chicken is taking the food out of my mouth, and all this stuff that he constantly goes on about. And you just kind of write all the stuff off is kind of like with the whole time travel thing is like science fiction, and like he's kind of just disturbed or whatever, because he definitely believes the things that he says. Okay,
Yeah.
so you just kind of write it off, and then like one time we're playing in Cleveland at the Beachland Ballroom, and the opening band was somehow organized through that promoter, and I didn't know who they were, which isn't normal. And
Mm.
so the opening band comes out and the singer comes out, and it's Burger King Diamond. And
Oh,
so Burger King Diamond, this guy that he'd been going on and on about that I didn't think existed,
he's
was,
real.
yeah, it was real. And he's screaming at me, and he's screaming at the security guards. and he says, I talked to the security guards and they said they didn't know anything about letting him in, but they let him in. And he goes, I think they're telling me a whopper. And I'm like, oh, whole thing like a setup or a punchline or what?
That is definitely I I'm trying to find another word besides just weird, but
Yeah,
it's definitely very strange.
what you get, it's what I get. So it's not what I wanted, but it's what I deserved. So, anyway, like 10 years ago, he was screaming about, robot police and burger chains that were going to be completely automated and robotic. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So now 10 years later, you're seeing all this stuff pop up, and there's like robot police dogs, and there's fully automated burger places that they're working on, and like, they're phasing
Yeah.
out people and robots serving you poison, and, like, and that's what he always talked about. So
Yeah. I mean,
I guess maybe
we need
it's
to heed
all
his
real.
warning.
So be careful. Listen to his lyrics and go and search stuff from the lyrics and figure it out and look at the contents on the new Bat Burger socks that come in these burgers that have like the contents that he told me were supposed to be in there. And like there's like these Easter eggs of like you have to go and figure it out yourself.
Mm.
Because you go to a Max Sabbath show, it's not preachy. He's not up there talking about don't go, don't eat this or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to like delve into it and look into the lyrics and look into the pop-up book and the secret things in the pop-up book. It's like hidden things if you want the information. But the shows are just super 100% energy and fun and audience participation and like a theatrical stage show like you'd see from like an arena rock band, but then different because it's something that's with a message and has like magic because he's a clown.
Yeah.
Magic. He's flipping burgers on a smoking grill and like and there's a like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and an arc. It's almost like a Broadway play. I tell you, like nothing no other music band that you've ever seen, and it's almost as much time up there, not music as it is music. It's
Mhm.
not. There's other things going on,
Yeah.
so it's very hard to explain. People think that they've seen like a video on YouTube or something and they understand it, but they don't. Because every single time I'm there at the venue, whether it's a promoter or a fan or an agent or whatever it is, they all say the same thing. They'll say, I had no idea it was going to be like this.
Well, you heard it there,
whether that's good
folks.
or whether that's good or bad, go find out for
Yeah, go
yourself.
find out for yourself. I haven't been to a Max Sabbath concert yet. I hope to one day, and I'm really upset because I wanted to go to the one in Dallas, but I'm going to be in California that weekend.
And playing in California this weekend. So
Man, just missing
come
everything.
early.
Oh yeah, I could come early. So, um
Yeah, we're playing with Max Sabbath is playing two shows with the Dickies this weekend, which is a legendary
wow.
American punk rock band. They're kind of known, they're kind of like the Ramones of Los Angeles because they've been around for that long. And
Yeah, I've
so
heard their name a couple of times, and all that I've heard was just like they're legendary. You have to go see them,
they're legendary. And they do the song Paranoid. So it's like,
Para Buns.
yeah,
um, so
yes.
if there's one message, or at least from your perspective, if there's one message that Max Sabbath wants to leave with their audience after a show, what would it be? Would it be to be more mindful about what they're consuming?
Yeah, well, Max Sabbath has coined the term drive through metal.
Yes.
And a lot of people take that at face value and go, "Oh yeah, go let's go to the drive-through and take pictures eating burgers in our Max Sabbath shirts, and it's like it's more than that. It's drive through metal is about investigation and really finding out what a drive through lifestyle is and analyzing it and doing the opposite and taking your time and not being in a rush and figuring out what's going on with food and the government and what they're allowing and particularly what's happening in the United States and what they're allowing people to eat and and not and is being banned and is illegal in other countries and what's going on with the FDA and the government and lobbying and figuring out how they're purposefully poisoning us and how to avoid it and not being lazy and going through the drive-through. That's what it's really about.
Yeah, and I really, really like that message because I'm a person who has worked at multiple fast food franchises in my life, and it's just made me not want to go there anymore.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how people love a certain fast food franchise and then they work there and they'll never eat it again?
Exactly. It's and for me mostly it's just how the workers are usually treated, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of my big things, you know, obviously the food is just going to be bad.
Yeah,
And bad for you.
yeah.
But
My niece used to love
oh
Chipotle
yeah,
guns, and now she's worked there and she'll never eat it again. You know?
exactly. And you know, even though they say their ingredients are fresh, like you're not
Yeah.
there to see.
Well, it's funny how fresh and natural mean absolutely nothing according to the FDA. So it's
Yeah.
just words that we use to say like it's kind of like reality television. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, we'll call it reality television, and people will like it. It's like, well, really, all that means is you have a terrible director, terrible actors, terrible lighting, terrible sets, terrible writers, because it's all fake. By the
Yeah.
way, it's kind of like, and it's like it's the same. It's like, oh, Burger King. We'll just call it that, and people will think we're the king of burgers. It's like, no, you're the king of deception, you know.
Yeah. And so I have seen the clip where Max Sabbath gets to meet Ozzy Osbourne. Were you there?
Not really. I
Aw.
yeah, they kind of tricked me on that one, or he sort of tricked me on that one, but it doesn't matter. The everything that's happened since is really amazing, and it really helped push it to the next level because there was all these kind of naysayers in heavy metal that's like that's disrespectful or I don't know about that and I'm real
Mm-hmm.
serious about this and Ozzy wouldn't like that or something and it's like that was comments like that constantly completely gone
Yeah.
completely gone
I
now
mean,
that everybody realizes it, you
yeah,
know.
and
It's like
also you don't know Ozzy personally, so there's no telling.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
his reaction was
but they
awesome.
do.
Yeah, of course.
Now
Apparently.
yeah, yeah,
And so you mentioned how Max Sabbath invented drive-through metal a couple minutes ago. So
yeah.
how did you guys, or I guess more like Ronald Osborne, you know, come up with that idea?
He's not an easy one to figure out. I don't know how he comes up with
It just came up. It just came up.
I mean, he will tell you that he was prophesized to do so, you know.
mm,
Higher calling.
yeah. The Lord told him to do it.
The
um,
Lord of the Swirl, I guess.
yeah,
I
the
don't know.
Lord of all the fast food places. So, and back to where we first kind of started this episode where you first met Ronald, what was going through your mind when he told you to go there and then you watched him, you know?
I thought I was on a hidden camera show, honestly. I thought like show was gonna pop out or something.
Yeah,
Because
someone's going to say punked.
it seemed to be very yeah, I thought I was getting punked, literally. It seemed to be very catered to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wasn't really buying it. And still don't know what that is all about.
So, and
But
still to this day, you just did it because you think it's kind of odd, I guess.
yeah, it's in with my lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
And
And
I guess, I mean, I don't know how much research they did on me, but I did have several jobs where I had a boss that was really, really hard to deal with. So I sort of
oh,
formed this sort of iron constitution because, I've had like bosses like, you know, throw, throw, throw bags of pipes at me or whatever it is.
dang. That's crazy.
So, I think that after the sort of the work experience that I had is the only reason why I've lasted for 10 years. But I mean, even the original Black Sabbath only lasted for 10 years. So this is quite a milestone. I mean, is Max
Yeah.
Sabbath going to outlast Black Sabbath? That doesn't make any sense.
No, but I don't know. We shall see. And it would be really cool if y'all, possibly do outlive the Black Sabbath, you know, time that they were together.
Yeah,
Um,
that's yeah.
yeah, and so I've also seen a lot of comments that compare you guys to Guar, and I guess they're just comparing you guys to, just because of the costumes and stuff. So do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that it's one of the weirdest, wildest, most extreme, biggest shows you're going to see on this level. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that one thing that sets Max Sabbath aside, which is unusual, which we've kind of talked about, is this social message that's very positive. You don't really associate a socio-political message that's serious and positive with bands that are associated with comedy. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
not. I don't think that's usually done. So I think that's one thing that sets it apart. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could definitely see some crossover fans for sure.
Yeah,
For
of course. And I've
Guarbies, Guarbies as Ronald calls them.
Guarbies. Well, I mean, I listened to a little bit of Guar too, and
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think they're pretty good.
Oh, fantastic! It's like the first time I saw Guar, my jaw was like on the floor for the first 20
Wow, so
minutes.
you were able to see Guar with like David Rocky and stuff?
Yeah, I actually knew him. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow, that's really amazing.
yeah. I've always been around the weird stuff. So yeah, yeah.
All right. So, as I mentioned before, you have a band called Rosemary's Billy Goat. Did it get
Played with
really?
Guar twice.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
uh so does it get, or at the time, did it get kind of difficult to manage Max Sabbath and Rosemary's Billy Goat at the same time?
Very much so. I am just basically too busy to do anything else. And Billy Goat was wrapping up a 30-year anniversary
Wow.
and managed to put out an album right about the time we stopped doing shows because we just kind of live in different areas now and such. I'm not saying that we'll never do like a reunion show, but the offer's going to have to be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
So if you're listening,
yeah, if you're listening and you're a fan, be on the lookout, possibly. um, so at a show, how does the audience usually react to Max Sabbath's combination of, the Black Sabbath, metal music and then the message?
well, the shows that Max Sabbath headlines is the reaction is just, I mean, the love is just overwhelming. Like the it's so funny to watch the people singing along because obviously they're parody lyrics. They're not the lyrics that everybody's used to. So
Yeah.
they're singing along different lyrics to these Black Sabbath songs in at the concert. And I've there was a trend that was happening where they people were going to karaoke bars and signing up for Black Sabbath songs and singing the Black Sabbath lyrics.
Wow.
And then there was a guy who went and made like 6 different YouTube versions of Black Sabbath songs that you could sing it when, I guess, karaoke bars do a thing where you can do it off of YouTube or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. So there's like a thing that on YouTube where there are Black Sabbath karaoke versions now. I've heard this happens a lot at Comic-Con where people are doing this. Anyway, so that's just like that's a slam dunk. You know what I mean? Those guys are filet o fish in a barrel, but shooting filet o fish in a barrel. Anyway, I think I just did something I told you not to do. Anyway, but anyway, so but when they play the festivals, that's when it gets really interesting because when they're playing festivals, you got people walking by who have never heard of it, don't know anything about it, and are seeing this for the first time, seeing it and hearing it. And let me tell you, if they're walking by, they stop and are there the whole time and are just super confused that this exists. You know, this like WTF factor, I think is what the kids call it, right? And yeah, and then that's what gets really interesting for me because it's a little different is seeing those facial expressions of watching it unfold in front of their eyes when they didn't intend to see it or didn't know anything about it because I'm so anti spoiler that like when I go to the movies I insist on getting there late and not seeing the trailers. I don't watch any trailers because I don't like knowing the what it is before I'm
Oh.
surprised to see it. I love it when somebody invites me to a movie that I've never heard of. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to
Yeah.
go to a movie I've never heard of. I'll have to, research a little bit and decide what I. But if somebody invites me and I go to a movie I've never heard of, I go, okay, don't tell me anything. And then I'm just, and because I think that's how a story should unfold, with as little spoilers as possible. So
Yeah.
that's what's best for me is seeing people's facial expressions who didn't try to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to go and see Max Sabbath and just have, the reaction that you're
Not have done
talking
this
about.
interview.
It just be like, and I've seen them play live on YouTube or, the live at blah blah, you know, those kind of videos. And
Yeah.
I just wish I was there in the crowd. All right.
Well, you're gonna make it happen sooner or later here.
Yeah, sooner or later, I'll catch a show one day. So this leads into my final question. So uh, I've seen that Max Sabbath kind of appeals to a wide age range, to older, maybe Black Sabbath fans, and then also like younger people like me who just enjoy seeing those characters and seeing the show. How do you think Max Sabbath manages to resonate with such a wide, diverse fan base?
This is a great question. I think that kind of like you described, there's the older folks that have been Black Sabbath fans all their lives that just happen to possess a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Then get over it because most people, in my opinion, although I think music is the most important and art form that resonates with me, I still think people are too serious about it. They're too invested in not having a sense of humor about it because the rock and roll business is terrible. So
Just the
so to
music
be,
business in general.
to be real serious about this guy who comes to your town and talks about your town and how much he loves your town and says these things that you feel like and says and does these things that you feel like he's saying and doing for the first time and he hasn't done it 179 times in a row in the past 179 nights. It's a little,
Yeah.
like you have to have a sense of humor about it and understand that it's entertainment and it's fun and that's what it is, and that so yeah, I think that there's these, older heavy metal Black Sabbath fans, this percentage of them that are like fun people who understand that anything can be fun and that it's all okay. And Ozzy Osbourne, I mean, kind of a
Yeah.
funny guy. It's
Yeah.
not really that, it's not really like that serious. Your pension is not on the line here. To like
Yeah.
mix Black Sabbath with a hamburger. You can handle it. You probably like both of those things. Anyway, so there's that crowd. And then what's even more fascinating is younger people who don't necessarily know or like or have been exposed to Black Sabbath. And I have heard many times young people say, I got exposed to Black Sabbath from Max Sabbath. And now I like Black Sabbath because of Max Sabbath. And I have such mixed feelings about that. It's really hard for me to hear as being such a Black Sabbath fan from all the way from when I was a child that I'm like, like that's when I get a
Yeah.
little too serious. I'm like, don't tell me that. That's not right. But now that time goes on, I'm getting used to it. I think it's fantastic that something that's so visual and fun and frankly kid friendly, which Max Sabbath is kid friendly, much more kid friendly than Black Sabbath, by the way.
Yeah.
uh, because it's important for Ronald. The message is so important for Ronald that it's very important to get a message out to children and to get it out early and for them to understand these things earlier. Like there's like a song called Drive Through with Freud, and Freud being a very famous psychologist that was all about, things having to do with your mother. And he talks about it's like the that the corporation is using CIA tactics to brainwash you to be addicted, a first five, to be addicted to the mother of all fast food, to be nursing from the mother of all fast food for your whole life because you've been psychologically conditioned at a young age. And so it's it's important, and so because of that, there's no cursing or like devil stuff or like drugs or you know any of any of the naughty stuff he tries to steer away from. So at the all ages shows that the parents bring their kids and they all have a great time, and there's like generations of Max Sabbath fans. There was just like a father who was dressed like Grim Alice with his son that made a headpiece that looked like Slayer McCheese's head.
That's so
Literally,
cool.
yeah. So like generations of people like receiving a positive message and having a really good time, and also the message of loosening up and having fun with music as well. Get a little more goofy about your music and a little more serious about your
Yeah.
food.
Get serious about your food and stay goofy with your music or whatever you do.
I think that, yeah. So I think that's probably the bottom line of this,
Yeah.
the message of this for generations. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on today and, taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. I really appreciate that.
I'll go back to folding bat burger socks.
Alrighty. Well, I guess that is going to be it for today, everybody. And until then, keep the music playing.
This has been a Rogue Media Network